First story. I ordered my older son to just lose to his younger brother. But my entitled son needs to win every damn game. So his brother broke his console. Now my entitled son and his sister are demanding that I punish their brother and ask me to like a parent without favoritism. So I grounded them for disrespecting me. Now I regret everything. So for some context, I 39F am a mom of 4. My daughters are 16 and 17. And then I have 2 boys, Henry 10 and Oscar 8. This story is mostly about the boys, but for background, our house can get chaotic, and I've always had to kind of tailor my parenting style to what works in the moment. My husband 41M is more by the book, and we definitely disagree sometimes on how to handle discipline. He says I coddle Oscar, but I just don't think screaming matches and drawn-out punishments work for every kid, especially one as sensitive as Oscar. Oscar has always been the emotional one. He was a colicky baby, had trouble with transitions in preschool, and still sometimes cries when he loses board games. Henry is more laid back, quieter, and very into reading and video games. The two of them usually get along okay as long as Henry doesn't push Oscar's buttons, which I've made clear to him over and over. One of those buttons is winning. Oscar hates losing. Whether it's Uno, Mario Kart, or a race to the car, if he doesn't come in first, it's a problem. He'll either burst into tears, throw whatever he's holding, or scream that something isn't fair. It's just how he is. We've tried therapy. He went for 4 sessions and spent the whole time building Legos and telling the counselor he was fine. Not helpful. I've learned the best thing to do is to de-escalate in the moment and talk to him when he's calm later. Anyway, because of that, one rule we've had for a while now is that when Henry and Oscar play games together, especially Mario Kart, Henry is expected to let Oscar win sometimes. Not every time, but when Oscar starts getting worked up, Henry knows to back off. It's not about babying Oscar. It's about maintaining peace in the house. Henry understands this. I've told him, if letting your brother win avoids a meltdown, just do it. You're the older one. Fast forward to last weekend. The boys were playing Mario Kart on their 3 Deciscons consoles. Oscar's had a low battery, and he asked Henry if they could switch. Henry didn't feel like getting up from the couch, so he just handed Oscar his DS. Pretty normal. They do that all the time. Now, this part is where I started to get annoyed. Henry knows the rule. He knows if Oscar starts losing, it's going to cause a problem. But instead of letting him win a few rounds, Henry played normally. Oscar came in second or third in 2 races and absolutely flipped out. Full meltdown. Screaming, saying Henry cheated, the works. Then, he got up, yelled, "I hate this game," and chucked the 3DS Henry's 3DS across the room. The top screen snapped clean off. The hinge is toast, the screen is loose, and none of the buttons are working now. It's basically total. Henry went pale and just sat there staring at it. He didn't cry, but he was clearly really upset. I started telling Oscar to calm down, but honestly, I was more frustrated with Henry. Like, why poke the bear? You know how he is. You know what's going to happen. You gave him your DS, and then you basically set him up to explode. So yeah, I got mad at Henry. I told him this is exactly why we have the rule. He knows his brother. If he just eased up a little, this wouldn't have happened. I told him he needs to take some responsibility for escalating things. Well, now everyone in the house is against me. My husband says I'm enabling Oscar and punishing the wrong kid. He thinks Oscar should be grounded, and that we should make him give his 3 Deciscons to Henry. The girls are on their dad's side too. My 17-year-old literally said, "Mom, you're being insane," which I think is super disrespectful considering everything I do for them. Henry has barely spoken to me since. He slammed his bedroom door when I told him they needed to make up. So guess who's left dealing with Oscar's tantrums? Me. I'm the one who has to calm him down when he starts yelling, because Henry won't let him in his room. I'm the one trying to make peace, trying to keep things normal. But no one wants to hear that. To them, I'm just the bad guy who let the golden child break something and didn't care. But it's not that I don't care. I do care. I just care more about long-term harmony. If we start punishing Oscar harshly every time he loses control, he's going to get worse. He's already fragile. You can't force maturity. Henry's older. He should know better. And like I said, this wasn't some out-of-nowhere incident. There have been other times when Henry pushed Oscar's buttons just to get a rise out of him. One time during Christmas break, they were playing Just Dance, and Henry kept choosing songs Oscar didn't like on purpose. Another time, he accidentally stepped on Oscar's Lego ship right after they'd argued. He acts innocent, but I'm not stupid. He knows how to wind his brother up. So when people say he's completely innocent here, I don't totally agree. At the end of the day, it was his choice to give Oscar the DS. It was his choice to play normally instead of keeping the peace. My husband told me I'm rewarding bad behavior. And he actually took Oscar's 3 dice cons away himself that night. I didn't agree with that. I thought it was over the top and just going to make things worse. But he said he's done watching me baby him. He put Oscar's console on the top shelf of our closet and told him he'd only get it back when he apologized to Henry. Forcing an apology means nothing. Oscar doesn't process things that way. He'll just say sorry because he has to, not because he actually feels it. I told my husband that, but he just rolled his eyes and said, "That's kind of the point. He needs to learn there are consequences." I said, "Well, maybe if his brother stopped antagonizing him, we wouldn't be here." He didn't respond. The next morning, Henry was still giving me the cold shoulder. He had the broken DS on his desk, just sitting there, and wouldn't talk to anyone. Oscar came in to ask if they could play Minecraft on the TV, and Henry said, "No, you break everything." Oscar started crying again, and I told Henry he didn't need to be cruel. Henry said, "You're defending him again," and stormed off. I don't understand why I'm being painted as the villain when I'm the one trying to keep everyone from screaming all day. My daughters are being disrespectful too. My 17-year-old told me she and her sister are done babysitting for free, because apparently they're not going to enable this circus. She said if Oscar breaks something of theirs, she'll take it out of his allowance directly, which I told her she can't do, because I'm the parent, not her. Then she told me, "You're not acting like one." She's grounded for that comment. I'm not letting my kids talk to me like I'm their equal. A few days later, Oscar started asking when he'd get his DS back. I told him I'd talk to his dad about it, and he said, "Why can't I just use Henry's until then?" I told him he couldn't because it was broken. He said, he can buy a new one. I told him maybe someday, but for now we need to let things calm down. He started crying again, saying it wasn't fair. I told him that's exactly why he needs to control his temper, but honestly, I get why he's frustrated. Henry knows how to set him off, and just chooses to keep doing it. My husband ended up caving a few days later, and gave the DS back after Oscar wrote an apology note. It was 2 sentences. "I'm sorry for breaking it. I won't do it again." I thought that was fine. Henry ripped it in half and said, "I don't accept it." My husband told him to stop being dramatic, but I think it's telling that even when Oscar tries, no one gives him a chance. They've already decided he's the problem kid. Since then, I've been getting these looks from my husband like he doesn't even want to talk to me. Last night, he said, "Do you even realize you've completely alienated your son?" I said, "He's 10. He'll get over it." He said, "That's not the point," and went to sleep on the couch. It's ridiculous. I'm doing my best to manage everyone, but apparently that's never enough. Now we're at a point where Henry won't even stay in the living room if Oscar's around. He takes his meals to his room. Oscar keeps asking why Henry hates him. I told Henry to at least say hi once in a while, but he said, "He never says sorry, so why should I?" I said, "Because you're older. You need to set the example." He just stared at me and said, "You're the reason he acts like this." I grounded him for that. The girls are being snarky about it too. My 16-year-old told me, "Maybe stop blaming the wrong kid for once." I told her if she wants to have an opinion, she can move out and pay her own bills. My husband told me that was too harsh, but I'm tired of everyone treating me like I'm crazy when I'm the only one actually trying to keep things together. Honestly, I don't know what people expect me to do. Oscar has always been emotional. That's not something you can just discipline out of a kid. If I punished him every time he cried or got upset, that's all I'd be doing. I can't control that he's more sensitive. What I can control is making sure the rest of the house doesn't make things worse. Henry knows his brother better than anyone. If he knows what sets him off, he should avoid it. That's not favoritism, that's parenting with sense. People in my life act like I should have screamed at an 8-year-old and made him hand over his DS permanently. What good would that do? He'd just feel resentful, and then we'd be right back where we started. Instead, I'm trying to teach both of them responsibility in different ways. Henry needs to learn that his actions affect other people, and Oscar needs to learn to calm down. That's balance. I know everyone online will probably jump to say I'm the but I'm just being realistic. If I make Oscar feel like he's constantly in trouble, he'll stop trusting me. And then what? More outbursts, more fights, more damage. At least this way I can keep some peace. So yeah, I didn't make Oscar give Henry his DS. I didn't ground him for breaking it. I told Henry he needs to be more understanding and stop pushing things so far. My husband, daughters, and apparently now Henry's school think I'm the problem. But I don't see it that way. I'm just trying to hold my family together the only way that actually works. Ada. Comments. Comment 1. Jesus Christ, OP, you didn't keep the peace. You built your entire household around one kid's tantrums and then acted shocked when everyone else started resenting you for it. What you're calling sensitive behavior is straight up lack of boundaries and zero accountability. You've taught Oscar that if he screams long enough, someone else takes the blame. That's emotional blackmail, and the target's a 10-year-old who's already doing more emotional labor than you are. Henry didn't antagonize Oscar. He played a video game correctly. You punished him for existing in the same space as his brother without catering to his every whim. And now your daughters and husband are walking on eggshells too. Everyone's telling you the same thing, and you're still doubling down because you'd rather be right than raise balanced kids. You think grounding Henry for saying, "You're the reason he acts like this," proves you have control. But all it proves is you're terrified to face the truth. Oscar didn't need understanding. He needed consequences. You failed him, and you're losing Henry in the process. YTA, big time. Comment 2. I'm not going to call you names, OP, but you are enabling what's basically learned helplessness in your younger son. You're treating emotional outbursts as if they're unchangeable traits instead of behaviors that can be shaped. Every time you let Oscar off the hook, you're telling him, "You can't control yourself, so I'll control everyone else for you." That message will stick, and it'll follow him into adulthood. Also, I don't buy the therapy didn't work excuse. 4 sessions with a kid who doesn't want to talk is not therapy, that's an intake. Kids like Oscar need structure, predictability, and consistent consequences. You're not giving him that. You're giving him chaos disguised as compassion. Meanwhile, Henry's internalizing that keeping peace means accepting unfairness. That kind of dynamic breeds resentment and emotional withdrawal, exactly what you're describing now. You're not keeping the family together. You're holding it hostage to one child's emotions. I don't think you're evil, but you're absolutely blind to how much damage you're doing. Comment 3. Let me get this straight, your 8-year-old physically destroyed his brother's console. Your 10-year-old got punished for it. Your husband's sleeping on the couch. Your daughters are mutinying, and the school counselor had to call you. And your takeaway is still, "I'm just parenting differently." Girl, what planet are you on? You keep saying Henry knows what sets Oscar off. Cool. Why doesn't Oscar know how to act like a human being? You've got everyone babying one kid, while the others are walking around like unpaid emotional support staff. Henry's 10, not Gandhi. He's allowed to play Mario Kart like a normal kid without fear of losing his stuff. Also, "he'll just say sorry because he has to" line. That's literally what every parent deals with. You teach them to say it anyway, because that's how they learn accountability. But not, you'd rather twist yourself into knots to justify a tantrum, because it's easier than being the bad guy for 5 minutes. Your husband's right. You didn't just alienate Henry. You're teaching Oscar that rules bend for him. When he's 15 and throwing chairs instead of DSs, you're going to look back at this and realize peace built on fear isn't peace. It's avoidance. YTA, no contest. Update. So I took in everything Reddit told me. I read every comment, well, most, and I figured maybe I did go too easy on Oscar. I'm not above taking accountability when it's warranted. So I tried to make things right, but somehow, everything's even worse now. I genuinely don't get how I can go out of my way to correct myself and still be the bad guy. First, I did what a lot of people said. I set up a family meeting. The goal was to give Henry the apology he deserved. I made Oscar write another apology, more detailed this time, and then we did a little reconciliation dinner, pizza, ice cream, the whole thing. I told everyone that going forward, we'd be making some changes so everyone feels heard. Oscar read the apology in front of the family. Henry didn't say a word. He just sat there, arms crossed, staring at his plate. I asked him if he accepted it, and he just shook his head. My husband looked like he wanted to say something but didn't. My daughters were texting under the table. I even had them do a group hug at the end, which no one participated in but me and Oscar. Off to a great start. Then came the next step. A new house gaming rule. I told the kids that all video games in the house would now be inclusive, meaning no one plays unless Oscar is included, not as a punishment, but to build family unity. That went down exactly how you'd expect. The girls were pissed. Henry told me flat out, "Then I'm not playing anymore." I said, "Fine, don't," thinking he was being dramatic. But he actually hasn't touched the Xbox or the TV since. The girls retaliated by refusing to come home right after school. I asked where they were going, and my 17-year-old said, "Literally anywhere but here." I told them they weren't allowed to hang out until homework was done, and they said, "Then I guess we'll do it at a friend's." They've started eating dinner in their room and locking their doors, so that's going well. Then, because apparently I don't hold Oscar accountable, I decided it was time the older kids helped him grow. I told the girls they'd be responsible for supervising Oscar for 30 minutes each on weekends, helping him read, build, do puzzles, or do anything away from screens. My 16-year-old straight up laughed and said, "You're kidding, right?" I told her I wasn't. she said. Then I'm done helping anyone in this house until you fix your priorities. Fine. Strike 3. Then I figured maybe I'm not being generous enough with Henry. So I tried offering him a gift card. I told him if he made an effort to play with Oscar again, I'd take him to the game store and let him pick out something. He said, "You're bribing me to be your scapegoat." I said, "No, I'm trying to show you that compromise has rewards." He walked away and slammed the bathroom door. So then I tried fixing the actual issue, the broken DS. I took it to a repair place in town and paid to have the screen replaced and the buttons reset. It wasn't cheap, but I figured maybe if Henry saw I was putting in real effort, he'd soften up. When I brought it home, I told him, "I wanted to fix what was broken. I'm trying, Henry." He took the console, opened it, looked at it, and then handed it back to me without saying a word. Now here's the real kicker. I tried explaining all of this to my husband, thinking he'd finally say, "Okay, at least you're trying." Instead, he looked at me and said, "You're digging the hole deeper." He says I still don't get it that I'm trying to manufacture forgiveness with half-baked solutions and still expecting Henry to meet me halfway when he was the one screwed over. He says I only started fixing things once strangers online called me out, not because I genuinely saw a problem. I told him that's unfair, he said. What's unfair is you trying to play peacemaker with one hand while holding a loaded scale with the other. So now the house is worse than it was before. The girls are ice cold with me. Henry barely acknowledges I exist. Even Oscar has started saying things like, "Why doesn't anyone want to play with me?" And I still get blamed for everything. I've tried to take Reddit's advice. I did the apologies. I gave consequences. I repaired the damage. I encouraged inclusion. And yet somehow, I'm more alone in this house than I was before I asked the internet for help. I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything people told me would help. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe some kids just aren't built to get along. But if I'm trying to bring peace, and they still treat me like I'm the villain, then maybe I really don't belong in this house, the way I thought I did. No one wants to hear that part. Oh. They just want to point fingers. Comment. Comment 1. Wild idea. When someone says, "I don't trust you anymore," maybe the next move isn't group hugs and house-wide game bans. Maybe it's asking yourself why they said that in the first place, and sitting with it, even if it's uncomfortable. Just seems like one of those situations where the more you try to orchestrate togetherness, the more obvious the cracks get. Forced bonding doesn't heal resentment. And no amount of bribing or rule making changes how someone feels when they've been let down. Comment 2. You're still operating from the same logic that caused the problem in the first place. Avoid tantrums at all costs. You think compliance equals harmony. What you're missing is that compliance built through fear or bribery doesn't last. You've trained everyone, even your husband, to see emotional safety as conditional. Look at the patterns. You rewarded destruction with a new privilege. You punished detachment with guilt. You used your daughters as emotional babysitters. You still centered Oscar's comfort over everyone else's boundaries. You didn't repair. You redistributed blame. That's why they've gone cold. They're protecting themselves from your emotional management experiments. Until you let your kids feel angry without punishing the feeling, you'll keep confusing control with care. This isn't a parenting issue anymore, it's a family system in collapse. Comment 3. You basically read, "Hold your kid accountable," and translated it as "stage an apology circus and guilt trip everyone into pretending we're healed." Then when that didn't work, you pulled the "nobody appreciates me" card. Girl, you're a micromanager with a god complex. And bribing Henry with a game card to compromise, that's wild. The kid's probably counting down the days till he can move out and never look back. Everyone's cold because you keep demanding emotional performances instead of doing the hard thing. Admitting you picked a favorite and broke the family dynamic. You can't apology party your way out of years of imbalance. Sometimes being the parent means letting the house be uncomfortable until real change happens, not forcing everyone to pretend you've changed just so you feel better. Update. I didn't plan to come back here, but I feel like I need to say something, maybe for myself more than anything else. I did everything Reddit told me to do. I apologized. I made changes. I tried to correct myself. But nothing I did was ever enough. And now I'm no longer living in my own home. After my last post, I hit a point where I thought, fine. If everyone thinks I'm such a monster, let's see what happens if I stop. I stopped making dinners. I stopped cleaning. I stopped stepping in when the kids fought. I told myself I was giving them space, that maybe if I stepped back, they'd realize how much I was holding together. They didn't. Instead, they adjusted. My daughters started cooking for themselves. My husband picked up grocery shopping and started making simple meals. Henry started doing his own laundry, which honestly pissed me off more than it should have. I thought they'd struggle without me. They didn't. If anything, the house got quieter. There was less yelling, less tension. Oscar still had his meltdowns, but not as often and not as loud. And no one came to me for anything. I felt like a ghost in my own house. So, I threatened to leave the house if they could do everything on their own. It started an argument with my husband. That argument was probably the worst one we've ever had. I told him I didn't feel safe in the house anymore, that everyone was treating me like a villain for trying to parent the only way I knew how. He said I wasn't parenting, I was controlling. I told him, fine, if that's how you all feel, maybe it's better if I'm not here. He didn't stop me. I packed a bag and went to stay at my parents' place. My mum was sympathetic at first. She always said Oscar reminded her of me when I was little. But even she started looking tired of hearing me retell the same story. She keeps suggesting I give it time, and that maybe space will help. But I don't think she gets it either. A few days into staying here, I told my sister I was thinking about sending Henry to live with her for a few weeks. Just to create some space. She said absolutely not, that she wasn't getting involved in whatever power game I was playing. That stung. I didn't think trying to protect one of my kids from more conflict made me a villain. But that's how it's being framed now. Everything I do is twisted. I called home a few times. No one picks up except Oscar. And even he started acting different. He asked me, "Why did you leave if you weren't in trouble?" I didn't have an answer. Then he asked, "When are you coming back?" And I didn't have an answer for that either. My husband hasn't contacted me. My daughters haven't either. Henry, obviously, hasn't said a word. I've texted. I've sent emails. I've even written letters. No response. The worst part. I honestly believed I was doing my best. I never hit my kids. I never screamed at them. I tried to protect Oscar's emotions and teach the others to be kind. I thought I was holding things together. And now I'm sitting in a quiet guest room at my parents' house, wondering how I became the one nobody wants around. I know people reading this will probably laugh or say, "You brought this on yourself." Maybe I did. Maybe I handled it all wrong. But it's a sick feeling, realizing that you poured years into a family that now sees you as the enemy. Like I'm a stranger to my own children. Like I was never wanted there in the first place, just tolerated. I guess I just want people to understand that parenting isn't one size fits all. I didn't do everything perfectly, but I wasn't cruel. I wasn't neglectful. I was trying to protect peace, and maybe I protected the wrong person. But at least I tried. Reddit told me to change. I changed. It didn't fix anything. I'm still the bad guy. Only now I'm a bad guy without a home. That's all. I won't post again. Comments. Comment 1. There's a weird irony here. You talk about not being cruel, but emotional control can be just as damaging as yelling. You've spent this whole saga trying to engineer emotions, making people apologize on cue, making them play games, making them behave the way you thought harmony looked. That's just emotional choreography. The moment you stepped back, your family finally reorganized itself naturally. The chaos settled because they didn't have to manage you anymore. I'm not saying you're evil, I think you're scared. You sound terrified of losing relevance, terrified that your kids don't need your version of peace anymore. But that's what growth looks like. If you ever want real connection again, you're going to have to give up control completely, not just physically leave. And blaming Reddit. Come on. Reddit didn't make you take every suggestion and twist it into another manipulation tactic. That was you, still trying to run the show. Comment 2. You didn't lose your family because of Reddit. You lost them because every time someone handed you a mirror, you smashed it and blamed the glass. You talk about doing your best like that makes the outcome irrelevant. Intent doesn't erase damage. You can mean well and still be the reason your kid's in therapy. You protected Oscar so hard he never learned boundaries. You guilt-tripped Henry until he shut down completely. You turned your daughters into co-parents and then acted shocked when they stopped respecting you. You keep saying you tried to fix things now. You tried to force things. And when forcing stopped working, you took your toys and went to your parents' house. At this point, your best move isn't another update. It's actual therapy, not for Oscar, not for Henry, for you. Because until you figure out why you need to control everything to feel loved, you're going to keep pushing every person who tries to care about you straight out the door. Second story. My broke husband bought me a gift for my birthday, and I'm very disappointed with it. It's a useless and thoughtless gift. Hi all, it's my birthday tomorrow, and my dear, sweet, very broke husband told me he was getting some parcels today. So to check the name carefully on them, so I don't open anything I am not meant to. We both have the same initials. Just had an Amazon delivery of said parcels, and one of them has been delivered in the manufacturer's packaging, as Amazon sometimes does now. It's the Momcozy Puree Station for filling baby pouches with your homemade baby food. Now, a few things. We have a 13-month-old baby girl, So whilst I still do make her some pureed stuff, it's mostly a sauce or a veg mix to then be put with something else like pasta, etc. But she is also at the stage where she is eating more finger foods and solid items. So I am using fewer and fewer pureed things. Secondly, I already have an at-home pouch filling station. I got it months ago and have found that I rarely use it anyway. I prefer to freeze her food in the little mold trays, so I have them in cubes. I get these are more for on the go. But honestly, if I am out with her, I already have my arsenal of go-to snacks in her bag, and I will try to order her something from a menu when we eat out. And, not to seem ungrateful, but this just doesn't feel like a gift for me. More like, here is this thing I got you to help you make food for our baby. But it's also 30 pounds, which is a lot for him right now. I don't want this item, it won't get used. And even if it was something I didn't already own a version of, I would prefer to have a gift for me, not for course the baby. Honestly, I am a little let down and feel like an ow for that. Wibto if I spoke to him about it this evening, as it's clear I know what it is, as the product is right there on the box. And how do I tell him to return it kindly and save his money without seeming ungrateful? He is going through a tough financial spot, won't accept my help financially, and I am the main breadwinner at the moment, whilst he gets a few things off his plate. I don't need him to get me anything, and would rather he didn't increase his financial difficulties just for the sake of getting me something. Comments. Commenter 1. She's trying so hard to be considerate when he barely puts any thought into it. It really does sound like she's carrying everything, the emotional work, the kid, and the money while still worrying about his feelings. That kind of imbalance wears you down fast. OP. This is true at the moment. I am doing those things. But I know there will be times in the future when I lean more on him. He's a wonderful, kind man. He hates the position that he's in at the moment. And he's a wonderful father who loves our girl more than life. But yes, I am doing all of that, and it is exhausting. But I love him. He's the person I've chosen to build a life and a family with. It's not sustainable, and we've had that conversation. But you'll have to believe me that many external forces have really hindered his finances at the moment. That doesn't excuse the thoughtless gift, and I will talk to him about it. Commenter 2. But I know there will be times in the future when I lean more on him. I really hope for your sake that he's able to step up when this time comes. OP. Me too. Commenter 3. How would he be able to take care of his child now when you do all the food prep? He needs to step up now. OP. He would figure it out, and he does take care of her. Example, this Saturday we're meeting a bunch of people for lunch for my birthday. Then he'll come home with her. At worst, I'll stay out to have some drinks and maybe a little devil's lettuce, and I'm staying at my friend's house, so I don't need to worry about getting a train home. He'll be fine with her, and next week I have to make a very rare work trip to London, so he'll need to collect her from nursery and get her fed. She'll live. He'll be able to look in the freezer for prepped food, or he'll make her something. It's just not his natural groove at the moment. OP's reply to another commenter. So he is out working all day. It's a complicated situation. He has a large money sink project that he is working on to sell, which will ideally bring in a decent chunk of money till pound 150k. But he is also self-employed, so he has to balance his time between earning enough money to fund the project to sell and actually doing the project. I have accepted his poor financial situation and support him, but he is also out of the house all day every day, so little she can actually contribute, as this asset is currently sucking it all up. I don't want to say too much about it, as it's the biggest impact not only on our relationship, but also on the amount of time he has to spend with us as a family, which is also very hard on him. And on me. I am essentially the glue that holds it all together, and he is aware of that. I hear you on the cooking thing. It's also an issue. He used to be an awesome cook, but I think finances and depression, and the lack of time at home have kind of robbed him of his mojo in this regard. Not an excuse, but a reason. I love and support him and know in time, he'll be able to repay the financial and emotional toll his finances have taken. His pride and self-esteem are in the gutter about all of it, which is a tough situation to manage. He is a wonderful father and a kind, sweet man who I love. He's just a little clueless with some things, especially at the moment with all the other things on his mind. At least he knows I didn't marry him for his money. Commenter 4. Wait, was he in this situation before you married him? OP. Yes and no. We didn't know it would go on this long, or how much of an anchor around his neck it would become. He has a lot going on, as do I, and he is very low about how unable to contribute he is, despite the crazy hours he's working. I put more detail in a separate reply. But he basically is self-employed, and has a big money sink of an asset he's trying to do up to sell. So he's working crazy hours, so he doesn't get much family time. But all the money made goes back into getting this bloody project done. It's horrible and has a huge impact on our relationship, good times with his daughter, and his mental health. I am stronger than him in that regard, but it's definitely wearing me down and isn't sustainable. We talk about it a lot, but I support him because I love him and know it won't be forever. We're luckier than most in a lot of ways, but that is predominantly due to my assets. He's dealing with a lot, and I'm holding literally everything else together and supporting him emotionally and financially whilst we get through this together. I literally cannot do more to help out and support him. I would rather he keep the money TBHs, but I don't think his pride will allow for that. He has no sister. His mother is in her 70s. He has no female friends who are pregnant. And he literally told me things were arriving today for my birthday. He's in a tough financial situation, and this isn't the sort of thing he'd buy for someone else. Update. Hey everyone, thanks for the comments on my previous post. Although, in classic Reddit style, there were a lot of people who jumped to all sorts of conclusions about my husband, his parenting, and how he feels towards me more broadly. Some big leaps were made. As I mentioned, he's going through quite a bit at the moment, and is in a bad place financially. Many people assumed he had no idea how to care for his own child, which couldn't be further from the truth. He's a wonderful, loving father and a wonderful husband. He just dropped the ball on this occasion. I'm sure his situation and some of the things he does / the ways he communicates would annoy and/or be a deal breaker for many people. Same as some of the things that you do, or that I do, would also be deal breakers for any number of other people. Not everyone would accept my situation as good enough for their relationship, and that's fine. I do accept him. Do I sometimes wish he was astronomically wealthy? Sure. But he's not, and I love him anyway. No one is perfect, and I love and support him. We both have a lot on, but at the moment, I'm the one who is more equipped to hold things up for us, both emotionally and financially. That's just how it is at the moment. We're building a life together, and sometimes one partner has to do more to help the other one through a rough time. So on to the update for anyone who is interested. I decided to text him along the lines of, "Hi, my love, some parcels arrived for you. But I am sorry to say, one has been delivered in the manufacturer's box, the Momkazi Puri station, so I can see clearly what it is. I hate to say this, but I actually got one of these stations months ago, and found I didn't really use it for her food meal prep, and it's in the cupboard. It just wasn't for me. She's moving more away from purees at this age anyway. I feel like an arse, but I think you should return it and save yourself the money. You don't need to get me anything to replace it or anything." He was fine with that, although I could tell his pride was a little dented, and after some discussion he said he would transfer me the money once he's returned it. I tried to tell him it wasn't necessary, but he told me that that money was allocated for me and my gift, and even in his financial situation he wants it to go to me. I eventually realized that trying to get him to keep it would be more of an affront to him, so I agreed once he got a refund he would send it to me. We had a longer, broader discussion about the item itself, and he gets it wasn't the best gift. Although he did remind me that I got him one of those toddler seat carriers that goes on an adult's shoulders for him for his birthday, which is of course a baby-related item. Although we acknowledged it's not quite the same, I view that as an item used to enhance their experience and enjoyment together, whereas the puree thing is a way to enhance a chore. But I figured arguing semantics on that wasn't really that important. We talked more about our current money position, our future plans, and where we're up to with everything. We've still got a slog ahead of us, but it won't be forever. I reminded him that even at the moment we're a lot better off than many others, and we're so close to being past this rough period. He said he's just tired of feeling backed into this bad financial corner, which I get, but again, this is temporary. Either way, I had a lovely birthday. My husband also gave me a lovely framed set of 3 photos of our baby at different stages over the last year, and a couple of other bits. He also took care of childcare on the Friday, so I went for a 2-hour massage and lunch, then spent the afternoon playing an old PC game, Black and White. Then yesterday we met friends for a birthday lunch, after which he took the baby home, and I stayed out, drank, smoked some devil's lettuce, and crashed at a friend's. My husband can look after and feed our child perfectly fine without any help from me. He's her parent, not a babysitter, so everyone making assumptions about him along those lines is just plain wrong. That's fine. It's the internet, and I was expecting a certain amount of snarky Reddit takes. But thank you to everyone who seemed to get that good people can sometimes do dense things. I'm now on the train home to take over baby duty, so he can get out to work. I've had a lovely birthday, and I'm looking forward to a day with my baby girl. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.